Hey everyone, Kevin P. McAuliffe here, and I am back again with another Creative Cow tutorial. And in our ongoing look at learning Avid's Media Composer, I thought in this lesson what we would do is we'd take a look at some audio effects. And what we're going to do is we're going to start out by doing a basic audio effect inside of Media Composer 7. And I'm talking about the giving an audio clip the sound effect of someone talking on a phone. You see this done all the time. You see me in the shot and I'm talking and I can hear the person on the phone talking back to me, but it obviously sounds like they're talking through the actual headset. And in most cases you'd think that you need to get out of Media Composer, get into some sort of an audio application to create this effect, but you actually don't. Believe it or not, it's an actual preset inside of Media Composer 7, and it's actually a preset in previous versions of Media Composer as well. And then what I want to do is I want to show you another common situation that editors run into all the time. And the situation I'm talking about is where you have an audio clip that's slightly longer than a gap that you need to fill. And what you need to do is you actually need to speed that audio clip up ever so slightly to get it to fill in that gap. Now most people again think that you need to get out of Media Composer or Symphony to do this type of work, but you don't. You can do all of this right from within the comfort of your Avid Media Composer 7 timeline. Okay, short introduction here. Let's just get into Media Composer and let's get started. Okay, so let's Alt and Tab into Avid's Media Composer. Obviously Command and Tab for all my Mac friends out there. And we're actually going to be using two different tools for the two different things that we're going to be doing in this tutorial. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to get in and we want to create our sort of telephone voicemail sound effect. Now most people, again, like I said, think that this is something you need to export your audio, go to a separate audio application, do whatever you need to do, and then bring it back in. Or even go to a Pro Tools suite, but you actually don't. So let's set up this effect. What I'm going to do is navigate right over here to my audio bin, and inside my audio bin I have 3 clips, 2 of which we're going to use for this and 1 of which I'm going to use for the next sort of mini tutorial. Now obviously for our cell phone voicemail effect we're going to need first of all the sound of a phone ringing. There we go. And of course I need the actual sound of the voicemail. Now you'll have to excuse the horrible sounding recording I did. It was just sort of me, just sort of off the top of my head, just trying to think up something to say that I would put on a voicemail. Hi, you've reached the voicemail of Kevin P. McAuliffe. I can't take your call right now, so please leave me a message and I'll call you back. So there we go. So let's get this set up. Now the first thing I want to do is just double check the volume of my phone ringing. Now you can see that I have the VU meters here, but personally I like to hit Control and 1, Command and 1 for all of my Mac friends out there, just to call up the audio tool here. Let's do that again since I just clicked on the foreground here. There we go. I just wanted to stretch this out a little bit. There we go. Perfect. I'm just going to come back, hit play. We're at about -8 and our voicemail is peaking at about, hi, you've reached the voicemail. You know what? At about -8, so I think we're actually in good shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call up my telephone ring again. I already have the entire clip marked, but just in case I didn't, I'm simply going to hit T on the keyboard on both Mac and Windows. Now this telephone ring I got from soundj.com. Again, I just wanted to point that out. A great online resource for free sound effects that you can use in your productions. What I'm going to do is with that entire clip marked, I'm simply going to hit B on the keyboard on both Mac and Windows. Now you're going to see I get a timeline with video and audio on it, so I'm just going to delete the video track here because I don't need it anymore. And let's just put that telephone ring in there a couple times here, just so that we have a few rings before voicemail is going to pick up. Now of course in here I'm also going to want to come up, we're just going to load some filler. I've already got 22 frames of filler, which I think is probably good enough. Maybe what we'll do is just make it 1 second in total. There we go. 29 frames, good enough for me. There we go. Whoops, let's just make sure I'm not editing video back in here. There we go. There we go. And there we go. Now, of course, after the 4th ring, we're going to want to have our voicemail pick up here. Again, T on the keyboard on both Mac and Windows. We're going to come all the way down to the end here, hit B to drop that in, and this is what we sort of got going on now. So, of course, 2nd ring, 3rd ring, I guess the 4th time's the charm. And then voicemail is going to pick up. Now, of course,
Kevin P. McAuliffe.
Doesn't sound realistic at all. If the, sort of in the shot of the phone's up to my ear, this would sound like it's coming through the headpiece of the phone. So what we want to do is we want to navigate up to Tools, and I'm going to come right down here to the Audio EQ. Now the audio EQ we're going to get into more detail in a later lesson, but I wanted to point out the presets inside of the audio EQ. Fantastic tool that you have access to. You actually have access to this tool in previous versions of Media Composer. I'm using version 7, but the audio EQ tool has been around for longer than I can really remember. And what I'm going to do to get access to the presets is I'm just going to navigate right up here to the little hamburger. I'm going to drop that down, and you can see that I can come in and I can add a female voice with presence, male voice with presence, music high boost, etc., etc., etc. But what I want is most important right down here towards the bottom. Actually, I should point out we even have a tape hiss filter right here, as well as hum buster. But more importantly for what we're talking about is I have a telephone EQ, and we're going to use the A version of that. Now you can see it's a green dot, so it's real time. What I'm going to do now is come back, simply hit play. Now what I should probably do when we're done this is I should come back and add that in here, because all of this should sound the same, but take a listen.
Hi, you've reached the voicemail of Kevin P. McAuliffe. I can't take your call right now, so please leave me a message and I'll call you back.
Very, very cool. Now I want to take this effect that I've added and apply it to all of these elements here. So all I'm going to do is simply mark an out point. We're going to come right back here to the first telephone ring. Now you'll see the EQ, once I actually go and click on the clip that has it applied, you can actually see exactly what is going on with the EQ right here. So you could actually get in and manually do this yourself if you wanted to. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here. We're going to navigate right back up to the hamburger, and I'm going to set the EQ into out. So that way when I hit play, you can see that we now have that same sound applied to everything. Or that same
Hi, you've reached the voicemail
EQ.
of Kevin P. McAuliffe. I can't take your call right now, so...
Now, of course, at any time I could always switch to telephone EQ B.
Hi, you've reached the voicemail of Kevin P. McAuliffe. I can't take your call.
You know what? I think I like A much better. There we go.
P. McAuliffe.
But you can see how simple it is to get in and add these simple EQ things, and even get in and do a little bit of audio restoration right from within your Media Composer and Symphony timeline. Like I said, we're going to get more into the EQ in later lessons, but I wanted to point this out to you because it's something that I see people do all the time, and I always see people leaving the application to create a very simple audio effect like this. Okay, now before we move on, I actually want to show you something else that's kind of cool inside of Media Composer 7. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to come down to my timeline. I've got a few audio views that I have set up in here, and one of the views that I have set up is called Clip Gain. Now I'm going to switch over to Clip Gain View. Now if you need to know how to get in and set this view, it's actually very easy. You can come right down to the hamburger right here. You can simply come up to Audio Data and simply select Clip Gain right here. Once you have it selected, you can actually come right down to the bottom and save it as a timeline view. Now why did I want to show you Clip Gain? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to call up the audio mixer here. And what I want to do is I want to get in and I want to adjust the levels of, let's just say, audio layer 1 or audio channel 1 here. Now how most people would do this is exactly how I just did it. They would actually call up the audio mixer by hitting my shortcut F3. Or what they would do is they would navigate up to Tools and come down to Audio Mixer. And then what they would do is they would simply grab the level they want to adjust and just adjust it accordingly. But what if I wanted an easier way to do that? There has to be an easier way. Now you'll see as soon as I let go of the audio mixer, you'll see that this is now updated in the timeline. It actually tells me that this layer is actually at plus 6 dB. What I'm going to do is just undo what I just did. I'm going to close the audio mixer. Why? Well, I can actually come right over here to the timeline, and I can actually click on this icon right here and adjust the audio levels right here from within the timeline on a clip-by-clip basis. Now one thing I do want to point out, and I'm just going to undo what I just did here, and I'm going to call up the audio mixer because I seem to have come across a little bit of a bug. I'm using version 7.0, so obviously if you're watching this lesson later on when point updates have come, this might have already been fixed. But in most cases what happens is when you group your audio together by simply selecting the group icons right here, is that now when I get in and I adjust one audio level, it adjusts the other one. The only problem is that the timeline doesn't seem to follow through with the hierarchy of the grouping in the audio mixer, because now if I come and I adjust just one of the audio faders here, you'll see that it only actually adjusts one layer. So that's our one channel. So that's something obviously very important to keep in mind as you're working ahead. Okay, I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so let's create a new timeline here. What I'm going to do is simply right click, New Sequence. And I'm going to call this one Coming Soon. And we're just going to call this other one Telephone FX. Okay? And with the Coming Soon sequence, what we want to do now is I'm going to come in and I'm just going to grab our S&S. I'm going to select the entire clip again by hitting T on the keyboard on both Mac and Windows. I'm just going to deselect video here and deselect the other channels here. I'm going to hit B on the keyboard to drop this in. I'm going to hit play. Special advanced screenings tonight, everywhere, Friday. Okay, so I called it coming soon. This should actually be special advanced screenings here. Let's just call it special advanced. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come into my other bins. I'm just going to grab some basketball footage, and we're just going to assume that, just for argument's sake, that this clip here, or actually it doesn't even really matter which clip, I want to pick a longer clip here, just so I make sure that I have more than I need. I think this first clip will probably do pretty good here. Perfect. Our guy's walking off into the distance here. And what I want to do first of all is I want to call up the audio waveforms. Now, how do I call up the audio waveforms? Well, there's a few ways to do that. What I can actually do is expand out my timeline and simply say, show me the audio waveforms, just like such. What we can also do, come down to the hamburgers here, come up to audio data, and of course, there's our audio waveforms there as well. Always multiple ways to do the same thing. Now, what do I like to do as far as audio waveforms go? What I actually like to do is have it as a shortcut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate up to Tools. I'm going to come down to Command Palette. Now I should also point out that you saw how fast those audio waveforms appeared because of the new caching ability for waveforms inside of Media Composer 7. What I'm going to do is switch to a menu to button reassignment. We're going to navigate right over here. I'm going to select this button right here. I'm going to navigate down to the hamburger. We're going to come up to Audio Data, and I'm going to select Waveform. And you'll see now that Waveform appears over there in the timeline window, and I can simply turn my waveforms on and off. Now what I want to do here is just deselect them there so that I can toggle them on and off right here. Very cool. Okay, now of course what's important to keep in mind is I can just switch back to normal view and still have the exact same effect. Now what I want to do here is just make sure by holding or by clicking caps lock on the keyboard so I can audio scrub. That's pretty much where the clip starts right there. So let's just make sure we mark only what we need. Friday. You can even get out of it sort of right about there. And what I want to do is I want to come in, let's just see how long my clip is. My clip is 4 seconds and 9 frames. So let's take this clip here, and what we want to do is make it just a little bit shorter than that. So let's make it about, sure, let's make it about 3:16. Why not? And the thing is that we need to actually now fit this audio in this time span right here. Now again, this is normally a task that you're going to exit out of Media Composer, go into a third-party application, do whatever audio work you need to do, come back in, import, etc., etc. Too much work. How do we get in and adjust this right from within our Media Composer, or pre-version 7, our Symphony timeline? Well, let me show you. What we're going to do is we're going to use the Audio Suite plugin filters here. What we're going to do is navigate to Tools. I'm simply going to come right down here to Audio Suite. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to come over here to my, where it says None, because right now we don't have any plugins applied to any clips. And you're going to see that we have a whole ton of different audio effects that we can add to our clips. Now before I go on, I do want to point out that there's actually more here than meets the eye. Because there was a great compressor effect that we used to have up until a little while ago, and it seems to have disappeared and been replaced with this compressor limiter here. And you'll see that it's a pretty complex tool, but what if I wanted that old compressor back? Well, you know what, it's actually no problem. I'm just going to undo what I just did here. I'm just going to remove that audio filter here, and believe it or not, I'm just going to save what I'm doing, and I'm going to quit out of Media Composer, or in your case, maybe Symphony. There we go. And what I'm going to do on the Mac is I'm going to navigate to Library, Application Support, DigiDesign, and on Windows what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Windows Explorer, we're going to go to the C drive, we're going to go to Program Files x86, into Common Files, into DigiDesign. You're going to notice inside of DAE we have two folders, one called Plugins, and appropriately enough, Plugins Unused. I'm going to select all of the 4 clips in here. We're going to cut those out, or pardon me, the 4 files. We're going to go back into Plugins, and I'm going to paste these in. I'm going to continue to drop those effects back in, and let me just boot up Media Composer again. So I'll be back in 1 second, and let me show you now what's changed inside of Audio Suite. Okay, we're back. Now what I'm going to do is simply navigate over to the Audio Suite window. I'm going to drop down my list of filters and take a look at what I have in here now. I now have a whole bunch of different audio effects that I didn't have access to before, including the awesome original compressor effect. If you need a fantastic compressor just to throw on some audio to give it a little bit of compression, this is a fantastic audio filter to use, and in most cases works perfectly on its presets. But that's not what we're using for this part of this tutorial. What we want to do is head all the way down pretty close to the bottom to time compression expansion. I'm going to apply that effect to my audio, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to activate the current plugin. And you're going to see this looks, might seem a little bit complicated, but for me, I really only use one parameter in here, and that is length. You'll see right now it's set to 4.33, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that to be about 3.9. I'm going to select 3.9 and I'm going to hit enter. Now you're going to see that everything else adjusts accordingly. What I'm going to do now is simply say render, and I'm going to say OK, and you're going to see my audio adjust immediately. Now you'll see we didn't get it back far enough. No problem. All I'm going to do is come back in here. Let's set this to be 3.6. I'm going to say enter. We're going to say render. I'm going to say OK. And it looks like we're ready to go. Take a listen. Special advanced screenings tonight. Everywhere Friday. Perfect. Boom. I come back to the end, hit play, and it looks like we're good to go. So you see how easy it is to get in and simply adjust the audio. If your audio happens to be a little bit too long, let's say you recorded a voiceover that's a little bit longer than the gap that you need to put it in, using time compression expansion is a fantastic way to get in and shorten that audio up, or maybe even need to lengthen it a little bit to have it fit perfectly wherever you need it to go. So if you have any questions, you have any comments, or you have any tutorial requests, you can send them to kevinpmcauliffe@gmail.com. This has been Kevin P. McAuliffe. Thanks a lot for watching.